Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Park Young-duk, professor of KAIST. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Park Young-duk, professor of KAIST. First of all, I'd like to thank the participants for attending GCCW conference. Before we begin, I'd like to make some announcements, and participants are asked to turn off your audio and please turn the video on. And this event is providing simultaneous interpretations in English, Korean, and Chinese. So please use the language selection menu at the bottom of the Zoom screen to choose your preferred language. Today's GCCW conference consists of 3 sessions. First session is about Korea-China Technology Cooperation Network, and second is about a Korea-India Technology Cooperation Network, and that will be followed by a special session. So let's begin the first session. The first session is about the Korea-China Technology Cooperation Network. During the sessions, we will cover presentations and discussions to analyze past achievements and discuss future opportunities. And that will be followed by another topic, which is about identifying cooperation areas in the smart factory industry. So during the sessions, ITRI of China, ETRI Beijing R&D Center, Blue Signal, and G2G Bio will make presentations. And at the end of the sessions, we'll have a comprehensive discussions. And let's begin the first presentation. The first presentation will be done by Ms. Laura Du, General Manager of the Industrial Technology Innovation Research Institute. That institute has expertise in terms of Korea-China Technology Cooperation Network, centering around Soojung of Gansu province of China. So, Ms. Du, please go ahead with your presentation.
대표님.
Now I'd like to invite the first speaker, Laura Du, for the presentation. Do you hear me? Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to deliver this presentation in the GCCW. My name is Lao Do, and I am now working for the Industrial Technology Innovation Research Institute. So I'd like to talk about the success stories or the strategies for Korean companies to make advancement into the Chinese market. So again, I'll be focusing on the strategies for advancing into the Chinese market by Korean companies. In the past, we also had a lot of experiences for helping the companies to make an entry into the Chinese market. So please allow me to share some of the experience that I had before. This is the content that I'll be covering today. The first one is introduction of our organization, ETRI, and the second one is about the macroeconomic market in China. And then I'll talk about the case study and the other tips for entering into the Chinese market. And at the same time, I would also like to cover the actual case and also the achievement by the Korean companies in this Soojung area. Well, of course, I'll also introduce some of the business models and the collaboration projects that that were done by the Korean companies. So first is about the role and value of ETRI, which is my organization. Well, this was established in 2019, and this is relatively new. So the acronym is ETRI, and the full name is Industrial Technology Innovation Research Institute. So we try to provide the innovation platform for the entrepreneurs. And at the same time, we also have a globalization the project. We are located in the Jiangsu province, and this is the reason why we get some financial support from the Jiangsu province. We also had a collaboration together with the Korean research institutes and the universities. We also create the value for the global innovators in China, and our primary goal is to provide a support for the ultimate technology commercialization. So this is the mechanism. So let me introduce our mission. So again, we are located in the Jiangsu province. And this is the area where the manufacturing sectors are very, very vibrant. A lot of manufacturing sectors are waiting for the upgrade. This means that we desperately need the new technology coming from the other countries. We try to leverage the network that we have in the local area. And at the same time, we also provide support for the foreign companies to make an entry. Sometimes we also have a matching projects, and for that, we also provide a specialized service and then achieve the technology commercialization at the end of the day. Our mission is to provide the bridge to build the innovations between the Chinese companies and the Korean companies. And we provide the following services, as you can see from this slide. The first one is to set up the business platform and also the other professional services. So we provide diverse services for the mass production and also for innovation. And this must be somewhat vulnerable for most of the foreign companies. The Chinese government has tried very hard for the past several years to provide special programs, especially for the foreign companies, especially when they make a first entry into the Chinese market. Sometimes they lack understanding on the current Chinese market. We are very much knowledgeable about the government policies and the regulations. So we'll sometimes try to find out some of the areas where the foreign companies need to focus more. Most of the companies also have the need for the financial support or the financing programs. So we also give support for the companies to secure the financial investment. This is the organization chart that we have. This is the HR department. We also have the administration department, and we also have a corporate service, as you can see from the left-hand side of this table. We provide the management consulting, which is a very expert, specialized services, and we provide it to the foreign companies. Of course, we also have startup companies as well as SMEs. When they make an entry into the Chinese market, they may encounter some of the challenges as well as the difficulties. We have the local support the body and try to help them to better get adopted to the environment. Sometimes they need to have a market strategies as well as a management strategies, and we also give some support for that. At the same time, we try to match the companies with the potential customers or the consumers in the Chinese market. And we also have another department on the HR. These are startups or the foreign companies may have some human resources issue, and we also provide support regarding the HR issues. Sometimes we also provide the services for the recruitment as well as retention. And the last part is the legal compliance. And we also have another dedicated department to provide a service regarding the compliance or the regulation understanding. And regarding the industry and academia collaboration, we are very much active in executing the global projects together with Korea as well as with other countries. So we provide a service for the collaboration. In the future, we also utilize the fund that we already have, and for the collaboration, we are ready to provide a fund for that, such as angel investment. You will see the case study in this slide, and this is about the Korean company. One of the Korean companies also made an entry into this Soojung region, the Soojung Industrial Park, which is called the SIP or the SIP. I think this is a very successful case. So I will be covering this in detail in the later part of my presentation. So I'd like to introduce the kind of services that we provide to this company. We also introduced the business model and the evaluation, and also this deliberation on the element, especially in the initial stage of the entry. We help them to set up the business report and also the communication. This is a quite the recent one because this was done in this year. So of course we had a lot of difficulties because most of the Korean companies could not execute the original plan that they had in mind. And this time I'd like to introduce the partners that we're working together with. So we have SIP, Soojung Industrial, the partner, Industrial Park, and I can introduce a little bit more about the SIP later on. We also work with the Johns Hopkins, GCC, like KAIST Global Communication Center, and the other examples that you can see on this slide, including Daejeon Technopark. We also have other partners, including Rusho, the law firm, as well as the financial institutions. And especially for the automobiles and the semiconductor, we are working very closely with the Korean companies for their entry into the Chinese market. This slide shows our profile companies whom we are working together with right now. So semiconductor, nanotechnology, environmental technology, and the new media, the sectors are the partners that we work together. Again, I told you that we are located in the SIP, and we are also working very closely together with other global companies, well-known global companies. We also can leverage the well-built network working in this SIP, the top 500 global companies. Now let me move on to part 2, which is about the Chinese market overview and the strategy for success. So I'd like to introduce the current situation of the Chinese market. I think more details will be covered by the second speaker, Mr. Iksoo from the ETRI. But let me introduce what I have prepared. This is something that must be very much familiar with you. This is the very, very basic data. So let me introduce some of them, especially focusing on the smartphone and the e-commerce transaction values, as well as the mobile payment system. This is the market size for the mobile payment. There will be surging demand on the AI or big data in China, so we can better respond to the future situation. This is a market outlook in coming 3 to 5 years. So the innovation definitely will become a buzzword. So let me go into a detail. Well, this is the market outlook, and I'd like to first talk about the innovation driver. We definitely need to have the need to work together with the global companies with advanced technology. So they will be definitely welcomed by by the Chinese companies, because we have a growing demand on these sectors such as health, finance, culture, entertainment, etc. So I think there will be growing demand on these sectors because China continuously grows, and we definitely see more demand coming from these sectors. So there will be more business opportunities in this sector. So this is about the characteristic of the Chinese market. First of all, the market size is really huge. And we also have giant companies. So that's number one. We have big fish in a big water. And number two, this is something that you must be bearing in mind, because we also have a very, very friendly environment for new companies. And next is about the investment financing. We are very open for the investment and the financing. We also witness fierce competition in this industry, because the Chinese local companies are also very much aggressive. This means that when foreign companies enter into the Chinese market, they need to completely understand the market situation to overcome or at least resolve the competition issue. Now I'd like to talk about some of the attributes or the factors for international high-tech SMEs. The primary element or the factor they need to focus is marketing, because promotion is extremely important. At the same time, they also need to secure a number of customers. So this is a kind of prerequisite for the success. They need to have a strategy for the smooth soft landing or the localization. So number one is marketing, number two is the localization, and number three is investment, and number four is compliance with the China-specific rules and regulations and the laws. We see growing demand in these areas. So let me give you some examples of the rising industries. So I already prepared some of the images for this industry on my slide. So healthcare, pharmaceutical company, and the new material sector such as semiconductor. So again, these are the rising industries like smart devices as well as semiconductor components. And the last part that I'd like to talk about is lifestyle and experience-based industry, because we also see the increasing segment in the middle income range. This time, let me switch a gear and talk a little bit about the potential difficulties for foreign startups. So number one would be the language, and number two would be culture, because definitely we see some different culture or the culture gap. And number three is about the information asymmetry, and sometimes information asymmetry may come from the language barrier. As long as they have a lot of information, they can better adapt to the environment, but sometimes they may have a different interpretation just because they do not have a full understanding of the foreign languages like the Chinese. So these are the main the barriers that most of the global or the foreign companies may face, especially based on my experience. So if you want to have a more successful localization, definitely you need to have a very good relationship with the local companies. That way, you can better adapt to the Chinese market, because we see rapid change all the time. So once the foreign company decide to make an entry into China, then they need to have a localization strategy immediately by setting up the networks with the local companies to get some assistance. And at the same time, you also need to identify or search for the reliable the business partners. Now I'd like to move on to talk about the special program support from the government. So this is the case done with the Korean companies. They make an entry in the Soojung, the province, and these are the supports that they got from the Soojung provincial government. So please pay attention to this program. So these are the projects that the Soojung is currently executing. So this is very much important. So please allow me to introduce more detail about this program. So a lot of companies are actually beneficiary of this the support. In the past 10 years, they have been very much fair and equal in providing services and support to foreign companies. And this also draws a lot of attention. And I know there's a fierce competition to join and win this project. Once you win the project and become a player, then you can enjoy tax incentives and other type of the support. So this is that kind of angel investment type, especially when they make first entry into the Chinese market. So this is given for about 3 to 5 years after their first entry. Let me give you some examples here. So you also get the initial investment support, and also the grant for the specialized manpower. You also can get the space for the office and for the housing. This slide shows a success case that we had by working with the Korean companies. Again, this was done this year. We successfully collaborated 2 Korean companies this year. So it's 100% the Korean company. So we had a very close collaboration and the communication with us to make an entry into the Chinese market. So first, we gave advice on their business direction. Well, I think their business area is very suitable and for the Chinese market demand, where they got the initial support from us so they could successfully set up the right direction for their business, which will affect their future business as well. We also help the company to have a very smooth connection with the SIP.
5 minutes left.
这样的一个
Well, due to the time constraint, let me move on to the next part. We also provide the services so that they make smooth the soft landing. We also introduce some of the special characteristics so that they can have a very smooth localization. They make a successful entry, and after that, the business partners, especially the Chinese business partners, as well as financial institutions, paid attention to this company. And at next stage, we also search for the right site, the planned site. I just introduced some of the successful cases that we had together with the 2 Korean companies. I mentioned previously that we are located in the Soojung Industrial Park. Maybe some of you are already aware of it. We first started this one with the Singapore government. This is very typical collaboration type of the project. We are geographically very close to the Shanghai, and we can reach maybe to Shanghai within 30 minutes. This shows the overall living environment. I do hope that the more Korean companies could visit and experience our industrial park. And on our part, we will also provide the lot of support. Well, you will see the names of the Korean companies, mostly bio and the semiconductor and the new material manufacturers. We have a number of the projects, and I think that the project that we are doing right now are very compatible to the Korean companies. So they will pay attention to the activities as well as the projects that we have. So I am ready to provide more information if you want to know more about our projects. Thank you very much for your presentation. And let me move on and introduce our second speaker.
ETRI 북경센터장 발표해 주실 거고요. 미국 최고의 ICT
Second presenter is Iksoo, Director of Basing of the R&D Center in ETRI. And ETRI is the Electronics and Telecommunication Research Institute, which is the best ICT dedicated research institute. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I am Iksoo, Director of Basing R&D Center of ETRI. And the Beijing R&D centers has been established since 2001, and we are supporting the company's entry into the market. And today I'd like to talk about ETRI technology commercialization in China and opportunities. As you are well aware, with the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, countries around the world had seen a decline in their economic activities. But as part of the effort to build new infrastructure, especially China is shoring up investments in 7 sectors. So the new infrastructure, that is the catchphrase of the Chinese government these days. And the COVID-19 pandemic has facilitated the economic transition and reform process of China. As you see here, they decided to make investments in 7 sectors. And the 7 sectors can be categorized into 3 areas. The first area is ICT, infrastructure and communications, 5G infrastructures, AI, big data centers, and industrial internet. And the second area is energy network. So that is about ultra-high voltage and intercity high-speed rails and rail transportations. And third area is the electric vehicle and charging infrastructure. So today I'd like to talk about ICT area briefly. As you know, there is a saying that demand goes up where there is money. Chinese economic stimulus package during 2008 financial crisis was about 4 trillion yuan. But new infrastructure investment stimulus plan for COVID-19 is estimated at 34 trillion yuan. Of course, there are different numbers and figures depending on which institute has conducted an analysis. However, overall, the total investment stimulus package is bringing about a lot of investment. So this year, 3 trillion yuan is expected, and that figure is a 15% increase every year until 2025. I'd like to talk about the central and local governments and companies. The central government identify national policy direction, and local government deliver specific objectives and actions. And private companies, as well as state-run companies, will participate in the plan. For example, please take a look at the table here. So this is about Shanghai new infra investment plan for 4 sectors. So the total investment cost will be about 270 billion yuan. And private companies need to participate for 210 billion yuan. So economic development is a priority for China. So under the national plan, local governments are also delivering specific objectives and actions in order to achieve the goal set by the nation. And the previous speaker talked about Suzhou region, and the Suzhou industrial complex is one of the biggest complexes in China, and it is growing in size. So in order for Korean companies to advance into the Chinese market, detailed strategies are needed. So that will be covered in the later part of my presentation. So I'd like to cover specifically the ICT sector. First sector is 5G infrastructure. So 4 institutions obtained licensing rights from the Chinese government concerning the 5G last year. So 3 of them are existing telecommunication companies. And this year alone, about 700,000 base stations will be established for 5G infrastructure. So the total investment needed for 5G infrastructure would be about 628 billion yuan. And this is about the second sector, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is one of the fast-growing industries in China, and they have set a goal to become the #1 in terms of artificial intelligence. And so far, they have shown an annual growth rate of 44.5%, and compared against the 26.2% world average. And the artificial intelligence sector is expected to increase further in the future. So at the moment, actually, there are 11 trial zones as of 2019, but the number is likely to go up to 20 trial zones by 2023. This is about big data center. Data is a key resource in production. Large amount of data produced through IoT, industry internet, e-commerce, and that needs to be stored. So the ultra largest big data center will be established. So as of 2019, the market size was about 370 billion yuan, but it is expected to reach 707 billion yuan in 2025. And the fourth sector is industrial internet. This is like the same as IoT. But in China, instead of IoT, they are using the term industrial internet based on the 5G infrastructure, IoT sensors in diverse ways will be established. So by the year 2025, their goal is to build between 3 to 5 world-class industrial internet platforms. So this plan itself is about building infrastructures necessary. In fact, the South Korean government as well this year released a plan for Digital New Deal. So creating a Digital New Deal DNA ecosystem is one of the focuses of the Korean government as well. But this slide is about making a comparison between China Manufacturing 2025 and Korea DNA policies. So under the China Manufacturing 2025 plan, there are 10 areas. And Korea DNA policy alone, if we take a look at the Korean DNA policy alone, there are 3 areas: big data, network, and AI. So in this slide, you would be able to compare between Chinese and Korean policies. So this indicates that Korean companies, based on the developed technologies that they have more chances to advance into the Chinese market. So I'd like to talk about new opportunities in China. So this is the summary of what I have mentioned so far. So there are business opportunities. In China, there is an unprecedented investment in new digital infrastructure. And exports and cooperation opportunities are increasing in the new infrastructure industry as Chinese government is promoting and reinforcing its sectors by inviting foreign investors. And third, there are incentives offered by the Chinese government to foreign companies that invest in the encouraged industry. So as a person who is working in China, I'd like to talk about strategies for Korean companies. First, there is a need to have competitive advantages. So your products or services should be differentiated from others. And also, cost-wise, there should be a competitive cost and price. And there should be a specific focus. And second point I'd like to talk about is that there is a need to conduct market survey or study beforehand, before going into the market, in order to prioritize which province to enter. And third, there is a need to find appropriate business partners. So with whom you will be working for the Chinese market needs to be thought of in a thorough manner. And in which province or in which location should I set up my company in Chinese market? So this question is very important as well. And lastly, I'd like to talk about the need to fully utilize Chinese government's incentive packages. And much of the content was already covered by the previous presenter, so let me move on to the next topic. For those of you who are not well aware of ETRI, I'd like to make a brief introduction of ETRI. ETRI is a government-funded or invested research institute. So it is a national research institute founded in 1976. It has head office in Daejeon in Korea, but it has 2 overseas offices in the US and in China. So the scope of research area is the R&D in ICT area. And our vision is to become a national AI research institute, at the same time to make a better tomorrow. So this is about the total budget, R&D budget. So this budget written in the slide is offered to ETRI by the Korean government. It's been about 44 years since the establishment of the ETRI. Over those years, ETRI has been taking the lead in introducing new technologies to Korea. So especially, ETRI was taking the lead in developing semiconductors. And also, the CDMA was further developed by ETRI. And that served as a good basis for Korea to take a leap as a CDMA superpower. And recently, ETRI is further focusing on artificial intelligence. So we are working on developing new areas of technologies that you see on the map. ETRI is focusing not only on R&D but also on commercialization. So ranging from R&D, IP management, technology marketing, technology transfer, up to the post-support area, ETRI is working hard. And this is the organization chart that you can refer to. So the Beijing R&D Center of ETRI belongs to the SMEs and Commercialization division. Over the last 5 years, the number of patents applied is 14,653, and technology transfer amounted to $166 million. We have more than 2,000 partners, and we have been working with 42 startups. And this is about the ETRI Beijing R&D Center. The ETRI Beijing R&D Center was established in 2002. So far, the R&D Center in Beijing has been promoting Korea-China cooperation, as well as the ETRI technology transfer, and we have been supporting Korean SMEs in China. So as you see here, the mission statement, we are serving as a bridge between Korea and China. I'd like to briefly talk about what kind of work we have been doing so far. One of the most important matters in China in doing business is to find the right partners. So cooperative partners is very important. So we have been creating relations with the Ministry of Science and Technology, the National Development and Reform Commission, and the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology of the central government of China. And when it comes to local governments, we are doing a lot of exchange activities like Qingdao, Jiangsu, and other local governments. So we do exchange with local governments as well. The Beijing R&D Center of ETRI, as part of the efforts to support Korean companies in China, is doing hard work in the market. Secondly, we promote ETRI technology in the Beijing R&D Center in a direct and indirect manner. For example, we promote ETRI technologies in various seminars and forums, and we exhibit ETRI technologies with for various Chinese partners. So what I mean by indirect activity is that actually we also support Korean companies in technology transfer. So one of the examples is that there is a company that received the technology transfer from ETRI, and that company was also further supported by local governments of China. Lastly, one of the things that we are doing is to support Korean SMEs to Chinese market, and we have a plan to reinforce this effort further in the future. Our target would be ETRI partner companies, including startups, in order to encourage technology transfer, and our objective is to help ETRI partner companies to enter the Chinese market. And we provide various activities such as market survey, co-exhibitions, B2B matchmaking, and so on. So if you are interested in getting our support, please contact us anytime. So this is about partnering with ETRI. When it comes to partnership, there are 4 areas. First is joint research. Second, technology transfer. Third, startup program. And fourth, funded research project. Due to time constraint, I had a choice but to briefly make an introduction of the Chinese market and what we are doing in the Chinese market. And so if you have any questions or any comments, and please contact me through the organizing committee of the 2020 GCCW. Thank you very much. Thank you for the presentation. So I'd like to introduce to you the next presenter from Blue Signal. So Mr. Jason Baik, please prepare yourself for the presentation. And Blue Signal is a private company that has expertise in artificial intelligence. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce to you Mr. Jason Baik from Blue Signal.
Thank you very much for your kind introduction. I'd like to check my audio quality sound. Do you hear me very well? Yes, you hear me very well? Yes. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Baik from the Blue Signal Corporation. I am the CEO. As was introduced, we provide the AI-based traffic prediction service. So we have the technology called the traffic prediction. That's our specialty. So let me briefly introduce our company. We first started this business because we had I had some personal experience because my friend's father passed away because of the unexpected heart attack, and he couldn't reach the hospital in time because of the heavy traffic congestion. So that was one of the drivers behind my business idea. So we had a very serious traffic congestion, and this may lead to the sufferings of the people. And of course, this may give some personal suffering, but at the same time, this will bring about the negative economic impact and economic losses in some sense. So it is in this reason or in this context that we set up this company. So we tried to find the solutions behind this traffic congestion. So I successfully could find out the solution. So we are collecting a lot of traffic data, and based on that, we conduct analysis, and then we move on to the next step, which is the traffic prediction. We made the continuous effort so we can have a prediction for at least 3 seconds up to the 60 minutes. So this is the kind of technology that we came up with. We use AI, and we can predict a lot of the different elements so that we can be better prepared for what would be happening in the future. So based on that, we also control the traffic lights to resolve this issue. The slide that you see is the head-up display, or HUD. This is different from the traditional or conventional head-up display because it shows the traffic situation in advance from the screen. So this allows people to predict the possible traffic accident in the future, so we can better respond to this situation before driving. We also can avoid the congestion as well as a traffic accident. Next technology that I will introduce is the transportation infrastructure, and that is what we call the CCTV camera, this is something that you can find very easily. So this is not about only the present situation. It also shows the vehicle as well as the pedestrian, the future movement. So this means that we can predict what would happen to this vehicle or to the individual after 3 seconds, so that we can also identify some of the potential risk. So this is a kind of a predictive CCTV. This is different from the CCTV. So we use another element called pose estimation technology. And another technology is to predict the direction of this pedestrian on the street while they're crossing the street, or while they're walking on the pavement. We also can identify or notice the illegal passing of the lane. So again, we can have a kind of prediction beforehand. Another technology that I will introduce is a very innovative signal optimizer. So we also can make prediction on the future traffic situation so that we can control the traffic lights. We already have some existing technologies that are mostly based on the existing data. However, our technology is extremely innovative because we also provide the most optimum traffic lights, because we also can provide information on the volume of the traffics that may affect the traffic light. So we can also cover the small areas to the large urban cities. We already conducted the proof of concept stage, and we found out that this can make improvement of the traffic flow by sometimes the few seconds up to the few minutes. We can predict the traffic flow, and based on that, we also can provide this data to the related industries. So this is the user case already, and we are applying this technology to different sectors. We have 3 different categories, including smart city, logistics, and automobiles. So this technology is applied within Korea as well as in other countries under collaboration. So we also try to develop and accumulate more user case. This is the target that we have in mind. So we are actually targeting the global market. We actually see about the 11.5% increase in this sector every year. So we want to have at least 30% of market share in the domestic market and 5% market share in the global market. This is the vision or the target that we have. This slide shows the competitors who have a similar project. Of course, they would have a similar concept. However, our blue signal has a unique strength, and especially compared to the global companies, we have the core technology or the killer technology, and we also have a high accuracy in predicting the traffic information in the future. Now I'd like to introduce our customers, which include the government as well as the large scale companies. We are also participating in the Smart City project, and in the next year we also join the Smart City project in Daegu as well as Soojung or the other cities. And we will also expand the market into the China and the Middle East the countries, and based on our predictive business model, will make a more advancement into the global market. This time, I'd like to introduce the foreign market or the global market expansion strategy. First of all, we need to identify the most viable partners for the possible collaboration. You will see the list of the partners in this slide. And we already built up a strong partnership together with these companies. Now, let me introduce our management team. They're all specialists in the needed area. So we have local branches in Daejeon and also the overseas branch in Hong Kong and California. The mission of Blue Signal is just one, because we want to resolve the traffic issues and also avoid a traffic accident. And to this end, we will continue to develop the needed technologies, and we also try to expand our business into the global market. So if you are interested in this technology or in this solution, and if you're interested in our Blue Signal, please feel free to contact us. Thank you very much for your attention.
대표님.
Thank you, Mr. Baik. I'd like to introduce to you the next presenter from G2G Bio. And Ms. Soojung Lee, please prepare yourself for a presentation. G2G Bio is a bio company with specialty in Alzheimer's disease therapeutics. Today, Ms. Soojung Lee will make a presentation under the title of Development of Sustained Release Drugs using InnoLAMP technology. Ms. Lee, please share the screen and begin your presentation. 10 minutes is given to you. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to introduce to you our company. Today, I'd like to talk about the development of sustained release drugs using InnoLAMP technology. The company I work for is called G2G Bio, and G2G Bio reflects our vision. So our vision is to become from good to globe by innovative biotherapeutics. And our company, G2G Bio, was established in 2017. So it's been about 3 years since the establishment. Our headquarters is located in Daejeon, and recently we have completed the manufacturing plant in Ulsan. The number of employees of our company is about 30, and most of them are researchers. So we are developing human drugs as well as animal drugs.
드럭인데요. 이런 제품의 초기
So we develop sustained release microsphere drugs using biodegradable polymers. And please take a look at the screen. Original drugs is based on oral administration, but now we are working on the development of injectables. So when we take a look at the Alzheimer's disease patients, they sometimes forget whether they had original drugs once or twice a day. So we are working on the development of the sustained release microsphere drugs so that injectables can be administered once a month. This is the general overview of the technologies that we are developing. So we have InnoLAMP technology, that stands for Innovative Long-Acting Microparticle Platform Technology. So as you see here, there is a monodisperse microsphere, but we are working on developing sustained release from 1 week to more than 6 months.
테크놀로지의 이제 강점이라고 좀 이 이노람프 테크놀로지 어떤
This is about
저희가 지칭을 하고자 하는 건
strong points of InnoLAMP. So as I mentioned, InnoLAMP stands for Innovative Long-Acting Microparticle. So we have a proprietary manufacturing process of monodispersed microsphere from 10 to 100 micro square meters using biodegradable polymers for sustained release drug, SR drugs. And SR drugs produced by the InnoLAMP can prolong API's release duration over a period of 1 week to several months. So this is the microspheres produced by InnoLAMP. So when we apply the technologies that we have, we could check that we are able to manufacture uniformly sized microspheres. This is a manufacturing facility that we have in Usecase. The InnoLAMP Microspheres Aseptic GMP manufacturing facility in Usecase Biopharmaceutical Manufacturing Center. So we are a company with a platform technology. So on a continual basis, we are applying for patents for human drugs, dermal filler, as well as for animal drugs. Briefly, I'd like to talk about the pipeline, the products that we have. So we have products concerning Alzheimer's disease, post-operative pain, and also we have plans for chemical castration. When it comes to human drug, I'd like to touch upon Alzheimer's disease. At the moment, for the GB 5001, we are preparing for IND. And also, we are working on making the right formulation for post-operative pain as well as for metabolic disease. Based on the platform technologies that we have a plan to come up with formulations for animal drugs. And also, at the same time, we will introduce some medical device in the future.
그런 약들을 조금 더 환자가
As you know, there are needs for long-acting Alzheimer's disease drug development. So market is growing at the moment. However, there are difficulties in development. But now we are working on developing Alzheimer's diseases so that would enable people to get an injection once a month, not once or twice a day. So we are targeting the global market, of course. So we will make the best effort to go into phase 1 clinical trial test. This is about the business model that we have. And we have strength in terms of formulation. So the formulation and manufacturing are the areas that we are strong at. And also authorizations and marketing, in terms of authorizations and marketings, and we are looking for good partners. And for example, as I mentioned, and for Alzheimer's disease, and we are working on developing drugs for 1 month for a monthly injection administration. And this is about post-operative pain, and we are working on it as well. So GLP-1 drugs are rising when it comes to diabetes and other diseases, but also we are working on it. So let me move on to future plans. So far, we have been working on enhancing original drugs, but now we'd like to put a more focus on new drugs, or we would like to do more collaborations with other companies through a joint research. So in 2017, our company was established, and we received the seed funding in 2017, and Series A funding was made to our company in 2018. So we have a plan to have an IPO in the year 2022. So thank you for listening to my presentation. And if you are interested in knowing more about our company, please contact me. Thank you very much, Ms. Lee. So 4 presentations have been complete. So for the upcoming 10 minutes, we'd like to have a Q&A session or the general comprehensive discussion. So I'd like to give you some questions. Are there any questions from the floor to the presenters? If you have any questions, please send messages to us. While waiting for your questions, let me give you a question to Ms. Du.
Yes, I reviewed your presentation, and you introduced about the HR, the support. So you actually introduced 4 programs in the SIP by the SIP, and I'd like to understand if the people in other countries, like Korean companies, also can make application for that. All right. So yes, I introduced that qualification. I told you that this year we had successfully completed the project with 2 Korean companies. So again, 2 Korean companies actually got the support for this project, and we, especially SIP, is paying a lot of attention to some companies with a very good or solid scientific background resources. I mean, especially if you want to know more about the human talent. But if the technology is too much advanced, then we may not be able to handle it. But 2 companies which were benefited from this support were not just startups, because if they are just 2 new startups, then they may not be eligible for this project, because these 2 companies already have achieved some progress. That way, they can immediately move on to the technology commercialization. Because SIP gave more credit to those companies who already proved some achievement. So let me add some more information for your clear understanding. SIP grants a financial or the support for the especially initial investment for the setup of the joint company. They also provide the R&D facilities or the office space or the housing space. And let me give another example. If the foreign employees need to stay there, they also provide the space for the housing or accommodation. So we actually have a number of foreign companies that already got the support from the SIP. Well, SIP, I told you that SIP actually provide the financial support, and you actually can get the investment of 10 million up to the 50 million. So same condition is applied to the Korean companies as well as the other companies in the States. So when you make a registration, you need to make it very clear that your business plan is compatible to the requirement by the SIP. So how you want to explore and make advancement into the Chinese market. So everything should be very much clear in the strategy. So you mentioned about the human resource support program, and can we also make application for that? So would you please specify the kind of benefit that the companies can get under this program? Would you please give some example? All right, so let me respond to your question. So we also provide initial investment. We have 3 different categories. Number 1 is a living space, and also the incubation, and another one. So you may have a different amount, especially for the living support or the housing support. It will be around 3 to 5. And next is about the R&D space, and this will be provided for free for R&D activities up to, I think it's normally 3 to 5 years. And you also can get the investment of the 10 million up to 15 million Chinese yuan. And at the same time, you also can get the other support, including accommodation, while you're doing business in the China. So they also provide a kind of apartment complex so that you can use it for yourself or your employees for free. If you purchase housing or a house in Suzhou, you also get a subsidy of about 1 million yuan. Of course, this support is only will be given only to the core human resources, not to everyone. All right, thank you very much for your answer. Now I'd like to move on and invite the first speaker in the session 2. And after the Q&A session, we'll directly move on to the smart factory. So this time I'd like to invite Mr. Baik from the Blue Signal. In your presentation, you mentioned about the B2G as well as the B2B in your slide. I remember the one slide which shows that the B2G and the B2B. And you also introduced would you please introduce your project with China within maybe 1 minute, so that are you talking about the Chinese customers or Chinese case? Yes. Well, this was mentioned briefly during my presentation, and we have the expansion strategy, and we normally work together with the local partners. And in case of the China, we actually met the partner in the United States called TechCrunch, because we actually have a project in China as well as the Middle East, and one of the customers had a very keen attention to our technology. So he actually visited our booth during the trade show. So we actually worked together in the Dubai. We also participated the trade show or trade fair in Dubai. So that's how we could have a collaboration. So we made a proposal for the business in the Middle East market. And we also had a very productive dialogue, and we could also provide signal signal optimizer technology.
나 중국하고 이런 거 해보고 싶다.
And lastly, do you have any comments from G2G Bio? So as I mentioned in my presentations, G2G Bio is a pharmaceutical or drug development company. But I think that actually the Chinese market is very different from the Korean market, and especially the Chinese market
못하기 때문에
is changing in a rapid manner. So,
어느 정도 이해를 가지고 디벨롭ment 전략을
but we have better understanding of other overseas markets, but we don't know well about the Chinese market. That's why we are thinking of having a collaboration with a partner for the Chinese market from early stages. That's the idea that we have for the Chinese market. Thank you, and thank you for the comment. And there are many questions raised at the moment. However, because of the time constraint, we can cover the questions right here, but we will deliver those questions to presenters so that they can get back to you. And now we'd like to go into the second part of the session. So I'd like to check whether the presenter called Weiwei is in the Zoom. So are you in the Zoom? Weiwei from China, are you in the Zoom? But what about Mr. Shin Junho, another presenter from KETI? Are you in the Zoom? Yes. Thank you. And what about the another presenter, Kyusoon Hwang? Are you in the Zoom? Yes, I'm in. So, okay, let's go into the second part of the session.
자, 1.1 마무리하고
Right, so we just completed session 1, and now we will move on to the session 1-2. And the topic of this session is to identify cooperation area in the smart factory industry. We will invite Weiwei, who is the general manager of the ENG automation technology, and as a first speaker. And the second speaker is the principal researcher Shin Junho from the Korea Electronics Technology Institute. And the third speaker is the director Hwang Kyusoon from the WISCOR. And after that, we're going to have a general discussion. So again, please welcome the first speaker, who is Weiwei from the ENG automation technology. The title of the presentation is a market overview for smart factory in China. So please start. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to deliver this presentation to you in the GCCW. It is my pleasure to have some interaction with you. First of all, let me introduce myself and also our company, ENG. I graduated from the university in 2012, and I'm now working in the Soojung, and my specialty is the smart factory.
오른쪽 밑에 예, 감사합니다.
好的，不好意思。目前这个
And I would like to talk about some of the development status and the trend of the smart manufacturing in China, or intelligent manufacturing in China. I have 5 different areas that I will cover today in my presentation. So I'll talk about the overview of the smart manufacturing, and then development status of the smart manufacturing in China, and also the key areas of intelligent or the smart manufacturing in China, and analysis of the typical implementation. And the last is the analysis on the development path of intelligent manufacturing or the smart manufacturing in China. So this is the definition of the intelligent manufacturing, and this has been already introduced quite some time ago. And this is to connect the manufacturing with IT. So this is new production mode based on the deep integration of the new generation information communication technology and advanced manufacturing technologies. And we have 4 different stages here. And in the first industrial revolution, we had a steam engine revolution. So we can have we actually had a full industrial revolution before. So now let me move on and talk a little bit about the development status. I think that China has not reached the fourth industrial revolution stage yet. And we have a Zhanggao is a Soojung area, and in some areas, of course, had the informatization innovation, but not all the areas. Now I'd like to move on and talk a little bit about the development status of the smart manufacturing in China. This is something that you must be very much interested in today. So this slide shows the China's current manufacturing industry. In the past several years, we actually experienced a lot of different changes. Let me give you some example. We also see the increase of the labor cost and the Soojung. I mean, in our area is not an exception. And we also have a very distinctive challenges. Samsung Korea is also being operated in the Soojung, and this also brought about some of the changes. We also have some companies from Singapore, and I told you that the SIP was first established with under the collaboration with Singapore, and we already achieved a lot of development. And after 2019, we have more companies occupied in SIP, and we had more changes after that. I think overall, the overall situation is quite positive. And this slide shows the driving factor one of the smart manufacturing. I think most of the sectors are almost the same, but especially the manufacturing industries face a lot of difficulty because of the increasing the labor cost compared to the Southeast Asia. Before, we had some competitive edge in terms of the labor cost, but not anymore. So we also see the moving of the plant to these Southeast Asian countries because of the lower labor cost in those countries. We also see the lowering the birth rate. We had a slight rise in 2016, but overall, the birth rate is going down. We also face the aging population, which has been quite persistent for the past several years. Now let's talk about the driving factor number 2, that is the policy. We have a very, very strong policy, and this policy definitely affects overall business. You will see some examples of the policies by the Chinese government. We have a policy on new energy, as well as information and the bio industry. We also have seen gradual development in these areas. And again, these industries are very much affected by the policy by the government. Next slide is about the industrial policy, especially the movement toward the intelligent manufacturing. And let me introduce some of the important policies in the manufacturing sector. So let me move on. So please take a look at it later on at your leisure time. And let me move on to the next slide, which is about the leading technology and the networking. We also see the increase in the R&D investment, especially Huawei. They made a huge investment into the R&D in 2019. They already made investment of 111 billion euros here. So huge portion of the capital goes to the R&D. I was very fortunate because I could accumulate the lot of expertise and experiences in the smart factory. Before 2015, the industry was not in the mature status at that time. So this means that before the 2015, the intelligent manufacturing or the smart manufacturing has penetrated into different areas, and we also see the increasing R&D investment into the smart factory. This is a growth trend of China's smart manufacturing enterprises, and please take a look at this chart and the graph at the same time. You see the number of new enterprises set up in China. Mostly they are located in Guangdong, Beijing, Shanghai, Jinzhou, Zhejiang, and some companies are concentrated in the Jianggang, the Delta area. The large urban cities, including Shanghai, may require higher the business expense or the cost. That's why they take a look at the other areas like Yangtze River Delta and the Soojung area. In case of Weiwei, they have a major presence in the Guangdong. So Guangdong is also labeled as a very innovative city because of these high-profile companies. Now let me talk a little bit about the financing. Especially after 2015, a lot of investment actually funneled into this sector. So this means that they become more vibrant and dynamic in some sense. And after 2015, we see the increasing portion of investment, which also made a contribution to the development of the manufacturing sector. In the future, I think the financing issue will become more favorable or more positive to most of the companies. So this means that you can achieve the target of the fund more easily thanks to this financing support. I mentioned about the Yangtze River Delta as well as the Soojung or the SIP. And they are extremely important, especially they have a geographical value in the smart factory area. And this is the smart belt in China. Of course, Beijing enjoys the advantage because this is the capital. And this shows the potential list of China's smart manufacturing center cities in the previous year. In case of Shanghai, the Pudong is a very innovative area, and they also have a huge potential in that regard for the smart factory. And this also gives a very strong impact to other part of the country. And these are the pilot projects right now for the smart manufacturing. The Chinese government is also providing a lot of support. You will see a number of projects here, mostly concentrated in the central area, such as Beijing, Jiangsu, Guangdong. And especially for the smart manufacturing sector, they're mostly concentrated in the Yangtze River Delta. So this means that the Chinese government is encouraging these companies to move and then get more prosperous. This slide shows the smart manufacturing industrial park in China. This is actually a map of China's intelligent manufacturing industrial park. We have Jiangsu, Guangdong, Shandong, the industrial park in this map. They get the support from the Chinese government in terms of tax incentive and the housing benefit and the financing. So again, they're mostly concentrated in the central area. This slide shows the 4 industrial area, and because we also see this park or industrial park even in the central and also the western part of China. And we see the central and western region here with the Sichuan, Henan, and the Anhui. Foreign investment is now coming into this area, and they also see the improvement in the transportation. This is Bohai Rim. They have Beijing and Shandong as a core, because Beijing is quite advanced in many different aspects. They have a lot of well-renowned universities in this area. And they also have a lot of internet companies as well as the tech companies. This is Yangtze River Delta area. They have Shanghai, Jiangsu, Zhejiang, as well as Anhui at the core part. And they also have a strength because of the geographical situation. And Suzhou is not an exception. You also can take advantage. You can also leverage the other facilities in this area. We also see a lot of companies with the foreign investment or FDI, and the smart industry is emerging in this area. So again, this is the Zhubang Delta area, or the Pearl River Delta. They have a Shenzhen, and they're very also strong in the manufacturing sector. To my understanding, Huawei is also doing business in this area. They have a strength in terms of the land side and the human resources. They're also very strong in the internet as well as high tech. This is the central and western regions. And the key characteristics in this area is that the Foxconn's presence. They have a Chengdu as well as Anhui plant. So they also have a strategic support for the companies in this area. So any companies who want to make advancement in the central and the western region can pay attention to this area. Well, industrial robot as well as smart devices and 3D printing can be the very matching industry. So this is about the industrial robot. After 2012, the industrial robot is booming, and I think they still have a huge potential well into the future. This shows the development of key fields of smart manufacturing in China. So at first, it had a very rapid growth, and now it reached a kind of plateau. Well, this slide is related to the policy-related support by the central government. And this is the market forecast. Well, this is about the Internet of Things. This also gives a very big impact to the automation. So again, I'm talking about the IoT and the automation. The plant automation is also drawing a lot of keen attention. And they're very much concentrated on the setting up the smart factory. They have pilot projects underway at this moment. And this slide shows the scale of the China's AI industry. So Chinese government make a huge investment into the AI as well as automation. So they also identify the points of improvement for the automation. R&D fund mostly go to the automation as well as the smart factory operation. You will see the sectors that are currently booming right now. So this slide shows the 3D printing. And 3D printing is not only a cutting edge technology, but also a potential stock that is expected to innovate the manufacturing industry. The 3D printing is well applied into the medical sector as well, and the medical devices. Now I'd like to talk a little bit about the laser cutting machine, which is also drawing a lot of keen attention and under the rapid development, and is garnering more share, especially in the aerospace sector. High-tech companies also require a different type of the laser cutting machine. Well, I'd like to introduce this table, and this shows the market capacity calculation of the laser cutting machine tools. This one shows the market scale, growth rate, and forecast of the China's smart manufacturing system solutions market from 2015 to 2020. This is for the smart system solution. As I mentioned previously, when you set up a smart factory, you need to have many different technology. You also need to consider the transportation and also the processing. And for that, definitely you need to have the automation platform and the necessary technology for that. Well, we need to pay attention to the development potential for this smart manufacturing system. Now, I'd like to give you some example in the automobile the sector. This slide shows the Shanghai Volkswagen production facility. Let me move on to the textile industry in China. The textile industry is the best case for the smart manufacturing or the automation because they had the huge dependence on the export before. So I think the textile is a kind of pioneer in adopting the automation or the smart factory. So of course they want to achieve the environmental non-pollution target. That was a starting point. Now I'd like to move on and talk a little bit about the current or the future path of the smart manufacturing in China. So this slide shows the development path of the smart factory in China. It shows the past, present, and the future. We also could achieve lower labor cost, and then we also could make a contribution to the environmental protection thanks to the setup of the smart factory. We also have a production automation as well. And this slide shows the Chinese government policy in 3 steps. So this is the plan announced by the Chinese government. And now let me move on to the next slide. And this is about top 10 key areas of the smart manufacturing in China or intelligent manufacturing in China. In case Soojung, we are very much interested in the bio industry or biomedicine. SIP is also focusing on the bio industry, and we witnessed a very smooth growth. We had the full automation, and we also have very close collaboration together with the biomedicine or the bioindustry companies. And next, we also have the automobile companies, and they also they need to have more innovation. Now let me move on to the last slide. This is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. I also like to thank you for keeping your time. So let me move on to the next presentation.
The next presenter is Mr. Junho Shin, Principal Researchers of the Korea Electronics Technology Institute, or KETI. So Mr. Shin will make a presentation. Hello everyone, my name is Junho Shin, Principal Researchers of the Korea Electronics Technologies Institute, KETI. And first of all, I'd like to thank the organizers, the KAIST GCC, for giving me this opportunity to serve as a presenter. So today I'd like to talk about manufacturing renaissance made in Korea.
세계에서 대해서 말씀을 드리고요. 마지막으로 스마트 제주 혁신센터에서 진행하고 있는
So first, global trends of future manufacturing and what is happening in Korea, and that will be covered. And let me go into the first part of my presentation, global trends of future manufacturing. So Industry 4.0 or the fourth industrial revolution, they are the terms that are often heard to many of you. I think that there's a paradigm shift taking place at the moment.
자기에 맞는
In the past, people just looked for something cheaper and cheaper and cheaper, but now there is a paradigm shift into the future. So there are many diverse kinds of products, but each of the products is produced in small quantity, and they are more catering to the needs and the wants of consumers. And also, I'd like to talk about reshoring production because of incentive programs of other countries and because of the low wages of other countries. Many companies did establish or create factories in overseas countries. However, these days they're coming back. So the reshoring production is happening at this point. As the previous presenter mentioned, in every industrial revolution, there was a breakthrough. For example, in the first industrial revolution, there was a steam machine. In the second industrial revolution, there was electricity and vehicles. And in the third industrial revolution, there were ICT as well as robotics. And in the Industry 4.0, we have diverse technologies like industrial IoT, cloud computing, AR, VR, MR,
를 적극적으로 활용하는
big data, CPS, AI, and 5G wireless technology, smart machines, including robots. As you know well, this is the smart factory model. So these are the steps of development for smart factory. There are 5 key scenarios.
으로 시작이 됩니다. 그리고
Step 1 is about shop floor to top floor,
연결 단계에서는
and the second step is machine to machine. So here in this stage, machine to machine is connected with each other, not just with the same company's machines, but also with other companies' machines. So compatibility is possible. And step 3 is e-commerce integration, and step 4 is manufacturing collaboration. And step 5
그리고 어디서나 이 데이터를
is analytics, artificial intelligence. So in order to enable these 5 steps, technologies relevant to Industry 4.0 should be combined in a harmonious manner, and that is the key point of a smart factory.
그 스마트 제조의 트렌드에 대해서 알아봤는데요. 지금부터는
So we had a look at the overall trends of smart factory. Now I'd like to move on to Korean smart factory policies.
산업 분야의 최근 트렌드는 한국 제조업에서도 많은 영향을 미치고 있습니다.
So the current trends going on in the global market are affecting the Korean market as well. For example, Korean conglomerates such as Samsung and LG are already deploying high level of smart factory systems in their factories. However, what about middle standing or SME firms? The level of automation or the level of smart factory technologies in their production facilities are lower than that of the big conglomerates. But according to a survey, 91.9% of those who responded to the survey that are SMEs and middle standing firms, they answered that there was a consensus toward the necessity of establishing smart factories. And 77.6% of them said that they are willing to implement immediately smart factory in their production facilities. For your information, recently the Korean government has announced a new initiative which is called Manufacturing Renaissance Made in Korea until 2030. So the goal is to make Korea the world's top 4 major manufacturing powers through manufacturing revival until the year 2030.
그리고 산업 진흥화를 추진하겠다는 것입니다.
Under the plan, the goal is to accelerate the innovations in industrial structure through the digitalization, eco-friendliness, and convergence of each industry. And second, spread enabling technologies to SME companies in cooperation in domestic and foreign companies. And there are 2 major programs. First is Smart Manufacturing Improvement Program, and the second, Smart Manufacturing Innovation Program. There are different types of businesses. However, through the convergence, added value can be created. So in order to realize this initiative, Manufacturing Renaissance Made in Korea, there are many programs going on, but I'd like to talk about two major programs. One of them is the Smart Manufacturing Improvement Program. And please take a look at the graph on the right-hand side at the bottom. So it shows the difference between improvement and innovation. So improvement is about building up step by step, but innovation is going beyond that. So innovation is about leveraging and taking advantage of new technologies in an aggressive manner. So I'd like to talk about the improvement program. So this is about giving guidances and guidelines to SMEs so that they can make an improvement. And a Smart Manufacturing Innovative Program is to facilitate the utilizations of new technologies by training, educating SMEs. Let me go more in details about those two programs. First, improvement program. There is a great technology gap between the SMEs and leading companies, and there is a need for customized solutions for each step. So there are different steps as you see on the screen. Basic level, intermediate level 1, intermediate level 2, and advanced levels. In case of Samsung and LG and the other leading companies, they are at the advanced level. But most of the SMEs are still at the basic level. So the improvement program is to lead most of the SMEs to the upper stages. So by doing so, the goal is to bridge the gap between SMEs and large companies. So expert consultants are deployed in SMEs, and expert consultants give instructions to SMEs, and based on the instructions, the factory of SMEs becomes advanced in a step-by-step manner. Through the Smart Manufacturing Improvement Program, SMEs, they are seeing an increase in sales and employment, and these are the results of the survey, as you see at the bottom of the screen. And I'd like to move on to the Smart Manufacturing Innovation Program. So this is about building the R&D center, pursuing test beds, and to support standardization certification. So the innovation program is focused on building best practices and enabling technologies, smart model factory. So there is two programs. One is the representative factory running. The other one is the a demonstration factory running. So how new technologies operate needs to be seen. So to that end, there is a demonstration plant or factory. So let's take a look at the representative factory or best practice factory. So I'd like to take a real example. So there's a company in Korea called P. Let me call the company P. And the P is one of the SMEs which is producing parts for automobiles. And that company was selected as one of the most representative companies for the government support. So some years ago, their level was a basic level, step 1. So some kind of automation was done at their factory at the time. But after innovation program, they began to have automated system. And as you see in the picture, they adopted CPS technology and IIoT technologies. And they did conduct big data analysis. So they turned their traditional factory into the new technology-based intelligent factory. So overall, sales of the company increased by 36% and operating profit increased by 14% after the innovation work. And I'd like to go into the second part of the innovation program, which is the demonstration factory. Demonstration factory is like a lighthouse project that is done in overseas countries. And that is aimed at giving companies the guideline for sophistication and while giving a direction for how to advance the technologies for the domestic manufacturing industry. And in Keri, we have SMIC, Smart Manufacturing Innovation Center. And in the center, we are actively involved in demonstration factory. So the goal of our work is to establish the most representative demonstration factory in Korea. So through our effort, our goal is to optimize performance, full automation, and also one of the goals is to come up with necessary technologies to support SMEs. So lastly, I'd like to talk about innovative programs done by the center that I just mentioned. And Smart Manufacturing Innovation Center was opened in 2016. And it is serving as the hub center for Smart Manufacturing Innovation Program. We are testing, evaluating, and assessing the necessary technologies for smart factories. So our goal is to introduce new technologies for smart factories without any hiccups or without any problems. So these institutions and organizations are collaborating with each other to verify the necessary technologies in relation to smart factory. For your information, the SMIC has members like this, and the screen shows the membership of SMIC. So I'd like to talk about the general composition of the test bed of the SMIC. So the first one is the discrete automation, and second process automation, and third digitalization, and the fourth additive manufacturing, and fifth is smart manufacturing. In order to give support for many types of test beds, and we will set up the second factory, demonstration factory, in 2021, and we will have an even bigger plant, demonstration plant, in 2022. And this is one of the things that we are proud of. SMIC has more than 40 organizations across the nations as membership, and more organizations are expected to join us. And we expect more collaboration and more networks for the future. And at the same time, the SMIC is collaborating with Germany and the US. So we are researching compatibility with the standards of Germany and America. So through this collaborative relations, we have announced IoT technology, and we succeeded in realizing a project concerning Korea, the U.S., Singapore. As I mentioned in the early pages of my screen, there are key achievements by the SMIC. We participate in a joint exhibition every year, holding a quarterly event for members to share trendy technologies. So we leverage Korea's smart manufacturing ecosystem of expertise, technologies, resources, and best practices. In order for global cooperation, we are serving as a hub of networks so that we can encourage global cooperative exchange. So IIC, Office Foundation, and the other standardization organizations are the ones that we are also having dialogue with and for collaboration. And at the moment, we have the demonstration planned, and every year there are 2,000 visitors at SMIC. So through an open demonstrations, we are releasing and disclosing many diverse kinds of cooperative models. I'm not sure if the video is being played well. So this is about creating the customized, flexible production facility by using 5G and other relevant technologies. This is the last part of my presentation. So our objective is to encourage voluntary and open communication between members so that continuous innovation can take place. Collaboration is crucial. So in our view, collaboration is key to manufacturing renaissance of Korea. So Katie will further spread the smart factory technology so that the SMEs of Korea can also prepare themselves for the Industry 4.0. So thank you for listening, and this is the end of my presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shin. Thank you for the presentation. So I'd like to introduce to you the next presenter.
The presenter is from the WISCOR, and they are specializing in the Smart Factory Integrated Management Platform. So I'd like to invite the Director Hwang Kyusoon for the presentation. So please share the slide with the audience. Good morning, everyone. So do you see my presentation? Hello, my name is Hwang Kyusoon. I'm a director of the WISCOR. We have a solution called the Next Form. So this is it's a kind of a platform solution for the smart factory. Our company was established in 2020, and our sales volume last year was about 15 billion Korean won, and we are expected to have 27 billion won this year. As you can see, we have about 70 staff working for our organization. And regarding the smart factory, we do a lot of R&D activities, and also have a business R&D and other activities. We have a smart factory area and R&D project. And for the smart factory, we also need to have infrastructure, which can be the IT. So we also do the business in the IT. We have a head office in Seoul, and we also have a WeLab in Yongin. And we are very active in the smart factory sector. We also have a lab in Changwon as well, because that area is very active in the automotive industry. We also started the business in China, and for that we have a separate office in Hong Kong. So we are expanding our presence. I'd like to talk a little bit about the WeLab Center in Yongin. We have a separate training center in Yongin to provide the education of the smart factory. This is not just about the product solution. We also have a collaboration together with the other educational institutes. We are focusing on educational institutes because when we talk about the smart factory, actually we have been doing this smart factory business for the past 7 years, and we learned that the mentality shift is required, or the paradigm shift is required to have a more efficient execution. So the mentality or the paradigm shift is important. That's why you're focusing on the education. Well, of course, we get some support from the government, but at the same time, we also need to deliver some knowledge on the technology so that it can be well applied on the site. It is in this reason why we are organizing this training session to the companies. So we try to extract meaningful as well as unmeaningful the data. We conduct analysis together, and based on the analyzed data, we apply it into the site for the efficient production and also the improvement in the product quality. That is our primary goal. I told you that we have a WeLab Center in Yongin, and we are very active in collaborating with other companies. Next is our product introduction. This is something that you must be very much familiar with. And as you can see, we have a lot of different solutions for the smart factory. We have MES, and we also have a ERP. And this is mostly about the production planning. And then we also have other systems for the price matching and the product quality and energy management system. And of course, for the food industry, HACCP is quite important. So we also have a GMP as well as CGMP for the pharmaceutical or the medical the sectors. For each different sector, we have a different indicator and we have a different data. This way, we also can conduct the monitoring in a more efficient way. And we also can conduct the analysis on that collected data. So we want to have a kind of integrated monitoring. That is a starting point for our solution. Whenever we talk about a smart factory, everybody's talking about the big data. But when you go to the manufacturing site, we are not quite sure we can create the large-scale data or the big data or not. So our understanding is the diverse type of the data, image, text, or other different type of the data, and so as to come up with the meaningful data. That is the true meaning of the big data. So within the platform, we can use the system, and you also need to think about the other elements, including facilities as well as a robot. You need to collect the data from those elements, and then we need to integrate in them and provide it as a kind of platform format. Platform may sound very broad or too comprehensive to some of you, but easily put, when you have a new line or when you add a new process, or when you have a sub-assure system, then you need to have a seamless collection of the data and also for the reliable scalability. So in some sense, we are serving as a kind of basket where you can put all the different type of the data. That's why we call our product, our solution as a platform. Let me move on and talk a little bit more detail about our product, which is a next poem. We conduct a lot of smart factory plans together with other companies, including small and medium-sized companies and large conglomerates together. So NextBOM, our solution can collect the very, very basic data for the digital target for the next one. So we have another level. So we have a NextBOM 1i, and then that's mostly for the NextBOM on-premise. And then the next one is for analysis with the other data. So that is a 2i. We already conducted and completed a 2i level. So we also have a more sophisticated project, and we also need to think about the predictive maintenance based on the collected data. So we also focus on the predictive maintenance, but I think the prediction on quality and prediction on facility are main focus in our NextBOM 2i. And if I move on, then we have a machine learning or the 3i level. We are still in the initial stage in the NextBOM machine learning or AI. I think we can have a more significant data maybe early next year. Please take a look at on the right-hand side. This is NextBOMer. This is the device where we can get the data more easily, and we also process the data to come up with the meaningful data. This is a kind of gateway device for data collection. Well, of course, we need to have a visualization as well as the data collection. We need to have a more meaningful and efficient data and to enhance the accuracy. And we also need to have a lot of different communications under this gateway device. So this is the reason why we came up with the NextBOMer. So let me move on to the next slide. And we have NextBOM MES, SPC, monitoring, EMS, as well as HACCP. As this means that we actually encompass all different point-to-point solution. So we do the monitoring on the visualization as well as the monitoring. This is the user case, which is going to be my last part of the presentation. I told you earlier that we started the business in China, and we also have a DPIC. This is a Taiwanese OEM of a TaylorMade. This is for the golf. And we collect data from the die casting facilities and monitor and analyze the production process and quality. Because in case of die casting, the electricity demand is extremely important. And now let me move on to the second case called Heron. This is the premium yogurt and the dairy product manufacturer in China. The most important indicator is HACCP. So we also provide a monitoring platform. So we provide integrated monitoring for the better or more efficient decision making. So this is our second case. I do hope that you have a better understanding on what we are doing, and I also like to see any partner who show attention to work with us. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. We will have a general discussion for the next 10 minutes. So now I'd like to invite all the speakers in session 1-1 and 1-2. Are you all ready to join this general discussion? Yes, yes. All right, so for the next 10 minutes, we will have a discussion on the presentation. First of all, I would like to direct my question to Weiwei Hwang from the ENG Automation Technology. I remember your presentation. That when the private company want to switch into the smart factory, there might be some support from the central government. So would you please give some example of the benefit or the support by the Chinese government? Yeah, in case of the smart factory, definitely we have a government subsidy for the companies. I mean, high-tech companies. And there are also other type of support from the other companies as well. So you need to make application, and then you need to undergo the screening and deliberation process. And after that, well, so they will take a look at all the facilities that you have for the possible qualification of the support. And they also check the ratio that you have for the smart factory. And you may have some indicator or the key performance indicator. And based on that, the indicator, they will decide the portion of support that they will offer. Well, of course, there's still only a few companies. I mean, we still have only small numbers who have who actually got the support from the government. There might be different type of the support, such as tax incentive, and each different province may offer different type of the support. In case of the Zhenggang, they provide huge support for the smart factory, including a tax incentive. But sometimes, I had a chance to talk with our customers, and they decided they make application because they want to switch into the smart factory from the conventional factory. Then the government normally provide about 7% of the entire. So they normally provide about 70% out of the total the project estimation budget. So this is the policy from the Zhenggang province, and depending on each different level of the development, they will give different type or the percentage of the support. So this is the rough estimation that the government can provide.
두 번째 질문 웨이웨이.
Thank you. I'd like to ask a second question to Weiwei.
Well, this time, would you please take a look at slide? And I see the top 10 priorities in the sector. That's what you showed us during your presentation. And when you deliver presentation, you mentioned the biohealth and the new energy and other high-tech areas. Because you emphasize that the bio industry or biomedicine and the new energy are quite promising among these top 10. So I'd like to understand what other sectors are more promising in that area. Is it? I mean, you mentioned about the bio industry and the new energy. Are they only applied to the Suzhou area? All right. So let me respond to your question. In the past several years, Suzhou were very much focusing on the bio industry, and we also see the rapid growth thanks to the support by the government. I think Suzhou will pay more attention to the high-tech sector. So compared to other provinces, they are less focused on the manufacturing and the processing. They're still waiting for the possible operation of the Weiwei in this area. The bio industry is getting a lot of support from the government. That is the reason why they pay more attention to the bio sector. In case of the new energy, this is quite closely related to the EV, and we also see the concentration of the automotive industry in this province. We also see a lot of automotive companies in the Guangdong, but they don't have a sufficient space for the plant establishments. So in this sense, Soojung is has more advantage because they have space for the future development or the setup of the plant of the automobiles. And we also have another area called aerospace. And I think the aerospace is also has a huge potential for the future development. And we also see a number of research institutes in this area. And this research center is dealing with only one aspect or one component of the entire aerospace industry. So in case of the Soojung, it's not that much advanced in the aerospace industry. And also the solar energy sector is not very well advanced in the Soojung area compared to the Hwangzhou or the other Zhengang area or the Yangtze area. We have a Sichuan as well as Shenzhen, which already enjoy the presence of the solar energy related companies. So they need to accelerate the development of the solar energy. I know that the smart factory will give a very impact to the growth of the GDP, so each province in China will definitely pay more attention to that. All right, so you mentioned that you also have an office in Hong Kong. And is it a joint venture with Hong Kong? Yes, we set up a separate entity and business entity in Hong Kong. So maybe you set up the office in Hong Kong because definitely this will allow you to do the business in a more smooth manner. Yes, and please allow me to add one more point. We conducted many different type of the projects. Heron is located in the Beijing, but our original target was the southern part of China and the Taiwan because they have more similar environment for the smart factory compared to Korea. So you said that you do the business with China. So would you please tell me a little bit more about the type of the business that you do in China? So what kind of format you want to have? Is it like a joint venture type or? Yes, we can also discuss about the joint venture type for the business in China. But of course, this is not that easy because considering all the constraints on our part, we first want to build up some user case so that we can more easily identify the business partners in China. So we will search business partner, but before that, we normally have a discussion on the joint venture. So this is the issue we also think about, but it's not easy. I know that a lot of other legal procedures that we need to undergo. Thank you very much. And this is going to be the last question, and this question is directed to Weiwei Wan. Well, my last question goes to the Weiwei Wen. Yeah, this is a very simple question to you. Very simple question. Well, did you listen to the presentation from the WISCOR by Director Hwang Kyusoon? Yes? Well, do you think the next form, I mean the WISCOR solution, is quite viable in Chinese market? Well, personally, especially based on my experience, well, I have been in this industry for quite a number of years so far, and I set up my own company this year. Well, we had a very gloomy economic situation because of the COVID-19 pandemic crisis, but I believe the risk and opportunity always go hand in hand. So we see a lot of different changes resulting from the COVID-19, and the China is very well controlled. So after May of this year, we see the recovery or rebound in the market. So I told you that I set up this company this year. So it's been about 5 to 6 months after the setup. I think the COVID-19 gave impact to all the industries. Of course, some of the industry all go almost bankrupt, and we also see some gap or the vacuum coming from the bankruptcy or the insolvency. So this means that there's a higher room or bigger room for the existing companies to grow further. They can fill the gap. Well, it's been about 5 to 6 months since I established my own company. I think I seized that opportunity. Of course, in terms of the size, we are relatively small, but we leveraged the platform from the government, and we are doing quite well so far. Because I have accumulated expertise and also the experiences, and I think we are moving to a very promising direction. Each industry may have a different situation. Of course, we have a universal pandemic of the COVID-19, but in China, I think we have a kind of limited impact. I think WISCOR definitely can enjoy this the crisis or as an opportunity, because we have some room or the vacuum of the gap, so you actually can fill that the space. I think we are slightly doing better than other companies or other countries, so the situation is quite favorable. As long as you can make an entry into the China right now, definitely this will boost your the business. Where Chinese government is providing a lot of support for the companies, and you can get the support from the central government and also the support from the provincial or local government. You need to take a lead and make the best use of the tax incentive or the other benefits.
생각 안에 모든 기업들이 때도
Thank you for the comments, and I wish all the companies can make money out of the COVID-19 pandemic. And this ends the first session. I'd like to thank speakers, presenters, and participants for your participation. I wish you all the happiness, and we will end the morning sessions, and we will resume the sessions from 1:30 p.m. in Korean time. And my special thanks goes to Mr. Weiwei for answering so many questions. And this ends session 1. Thank you.